Welcome to RTB, the podcast for aviation geeks, made by Aviation Geeks. In today's episode, that time an Israeli F-15 landed without a wing.
Flying requires two wings. That's what every aviation expert will tell you. But in 1983, an Israeli F-15 pilot proved everyone wrong in the most spectacular way possible.
Hold on. Are you saying an aircraft actually flew with just one wing? That seems physically impossible.
Well, that's exactly what happened over the Negev desert. Two Israeli F-15s were conducting routine training exercises against four A-4 Skyhawks when something went terribly wrong. The F-15, piloted by Ziv Nadivi with instructor Yehor Gal in the back seat, collided with one of the A-4s.
I'm guessing this is where standard procedure would call for immediate ejection?
You know, that's exactly what the instructor ordered. The A-4 was destroyed instantly, and their F-15 went into a wild spin. But here's where it gets interesting. Nadivi, who was technically the student but senior in rank, made a decision that defied all conventional wisdom.
So what did he do that was so unconventional?
Well, instead of punching out, he fought to regain control. They could see fuel vapor pouring from the right side, but couldn't see the full damage. When the plane started to roll, Nadivi did something that sounds completely insane. He hit the afterburners, increasing engine output from 14,590 to 23,770 pounds of force.
That's wild. Adding more power to a damaged, fuel-leaking aircraft? What was his thinking?
You know what's even more incredible? At this point, they had no idea their entire right wing had been sheared off about 2 feet from the fuselage. Those massive engines were literally keeping them in the air, along with some lift from the fuselage design. But they still had to get this critically damaged aircraft back to base with rapidly depleting fuel.
The landing must have been absolutely terrifying. How do you even approach something like that?
So here's where Nadivi's skill really came into play. The recommended landing speed for an F-15 is around 150 miles per hour, but he had to maintain nearly double that, around 300 miles per hour, just to keep the plane stable. They deployed the tailhook to help slow down, but it ripped clean off on touchdown.
That sounds more like a controlled crash than a landing. Did they have any backup plans if things went wrong?
At that point, they were pretty much out of options. They barely stopped before hitting the barrier, with just 10 meters to spare. And get this, it wasn't until after they'd come to a complete stop that they finally saw what they'd been flying with. The look on their faces when they realized they just landed a fighter jet missing an entire wing. Well, you can imagine.
You know, we often think of the F-15 as this sleek, fast fighter, but this really shows its incredible engineering. What happened to this particular aircraft afterward?
Well, that's another fascinating part of the story. This F-15 had already scored 4 kills during the 1982 Lebanon War before this incident. They actually repaired it, gave it a new wing, and put it right back into service. 2 years later, it scored another kill against a Syrian MiG-23.
The manufacturer must have been pretty impressed by this feat.
Actually, McDonnell Douglas initially refused to believe it was possible, until they saw the photographic evidence. This incident completely changed our understanding of aircraft design and emergency procedures. The F-15's incredible combat record of 104 kills with 0 losses suddenly made even more sense.
So, what lasting impact did this incident have on the aviation industry?
You know, it really transformed our understanding of aircraft design and emergency procedures. The fact that the F-15's fuselage could generate enough lift to keep flying has influenced modern aircraft design. Though I should probably mention, this isn't something pilots should try to recreate.
That's definitely worth emphasizing, though it makes you wonder what other seemingly impossible feats these machines might be capable of.
Exactly. And that's really the heart of aviation innovation. Every time we think we've reached the limits of what's possible, someone comes along and proves us wrong, though preferably with both wings still attached to the aircraft.
Thanks for stopping by, friends. See you soon in the next episode of RTB. Happy landings.